There's a podcast that you will want to add to your playlist. Warriors for Christ. That's the number 4. Warriors for Christ is a Christian podcast providing biblical teaching without the doctrines of man. In other words, they like to let the Bible explain itself. The format includes non-denominational readings and teachings from the Bible. They also have interviews and whatever the Lord puts on their hearts to present. Life in this world can be very stressful and filled with anxieties. Warriors for Christ will give you the biblical information you need to help deal with all life has to bring. Warriors for Christ confronts many false doctrines which are pervasive in this age and what some call the church in a box. And they also offer a full gospel ministry. Find Warriors for Christ on Podomatic, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Player FM, Stitcher, Deezer, Amazon Podcast, and Spotify. Warriors for Christ. Share the podcast on all of your social media so your friends can listen to Warriors for Christ. That's the number 4. Add it to your playlist right now.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Well, we got a lot to talk about on the show today. Lots happening. And, you know, the Russian army, what a joke the Russian army is, right? You know, our entire lives with the Cold War and everything, we've lived in fear of Russia for all these. Even now, more than one reporter, 3, 4, 5 reporters have asked Jen Psaki and Biden if the nuclear war is coming and everything. And
they shouldn't even, that is so irresponsible.
Isn't it?
For them to even bring that up or ask that question.
That's the fake news
Part
media.
of me thinks they'd even love it.
I don't.
They'd sell more newspapers.
Well, you know, you look at the Russian army, right? They've gotten their butts kicked by Ukraine, which is a company it's a corrupt company with Biden and everybody in there. But Ukraine's run by a guy that is like a clown comedian, like a Carrot Top-like comedian, who went on to have a job similar to Martin Sheen playing the president of Ukraine in that TV show. They're getting their butt whipped by them. Their supply chain has fallen apart. They have no fuel and other supplies for the weapon. And their supply chain, this is a country, they're at war against a country that borders them, and they don't have supplies and gas.
He's not letting up, though. The more they defy him. The more he's going to buckle down, and the harder he's going to come at them. That's what's happening right now.
The Russian army's
pissed off.
The Russian army was defeated in Afghanistan. We've lived in fear of them our whole lives, and all this talk about nuclear, I'm not so sure that their weapons could launch, that they're even up to. I mean, I want you guys to think about this now. You guys let us know in the comments and send us your opinions. But the Russian army, what an embarrassment this is. And, you know, Putin's position on power has got to be weakened very much so just based on what a military blunder, what a military failure this has been from a Russian point of view. Because, you know, a lot of, it's like in North Korea, they have those parades. And a lot of the things in the parades aren't real. They're like missiles made out of like wood and things like this. A lot of times you'll hear people, they say, look at the tires on those tractor trailers. They're not down. There's no weight on them. So those rockets are probably not real. You've heard that. That's how I feel like Russia is.
But they're bombing people. I mean, you see the video. They're bombing. There's people dying. So
they have not. We're about, I'm not sure if we're 6 or 7 days in. We're a week in to this military operation, and the Russians have not achieved a single military objective. All the military experts have been talking about this. Yeah. So the fear we've had our entire lives of the Russian army is fake news.
Yeah, and I think it was like that before too in the 80s. I think that he's going to come at them even harder, but I think he underestimated, and maybe a lot of people did, Ukraine and
maybe he overestimated his own army.
Yeah, I think he maybe both, but I think he underestimated their preparedness and their willingness to fight him. I think he thought they would just fold within days.
Yeah, now and
all this is happening, but the more that he looks weak on the world stage, the harder he's going to fight. and try to prove
if he
people
can.
wrong.
If he can, and a lot
can.
of information has come out about the situation with Ukraine in the last day. And there's one piece of news that came out today that really got me thinking about this. Now, again, I'm an anti-war guy. I don't support war. I don't support the attack on Ukraine. I don't want any war going on. Civilians are being killed, and there's all kinds of terrible things going on. However, this is, I was talking with Steve about this today on the show. Whenever there's a conflict in the world, everyone wants to immediately take a side. And I'm kind of in the point with this one. I don't think there is a side. I think both sides have a lot of problems, and there is not really a side that we should be on. However, Ukraine, what got me really looking into Ukraine today, we all know Ukraine is like a corrupt place, right? Not just Biden. A lot of Washington politicians have a lot of corrupt dealings going on in Ukraine.
But that has nothing to do with our country has corrupt politicians too, but that doesn't have anything to do with us.
Well, I don't blame the people, but what came out about Ukraine today, though, that I found really troubling is George Soros tweeted that the United States, NATO, and the entire world needs to get behind Ukraine against Russia. And anything George Soros is in favor of, we really that causes a lot of pause.
Where is he from?
Originally, he's from Europe. And he was, remember, he turned people into the Nazis during the Second World War. But George Soros, the crime wave that's going on in America today is because George Soros has been backing for about 10 years district attorneys running for office in major cities around the United States. And this crime wave has in this country, which is terrorizing Americans, is in large part due to George Soros. And you guys know a lot about what he's done. I'm not going to go through a list. I'm not one of these George Soros. A lot of people, no matter what happens in the world, George Soros, he's like Kaiser Sose, I'm not that way with George Soros. I know he's a very bad guy, and I know what he's done. But I don't run to blame him every time something goes wrong in the country. But there are some things he's responsible for, and one of them is this major crime wave in America. And when George Soros comes out in favor of Ukraine against Russia, you got to say, well, wait a minute, what's that about? What's he got going on there that makes him say we got to get behind Ukraine? That's something that should really be looked into. But this idea that we've lived our entire lives in fear of Putin, in fear of Ukraine, is, I'm sorry, not Ukraine, but fear of Russia, not Ukraine, is yet again we find out that the fear of Russia is fake news, just like during the Cold War. Oh, I want to tell everyone later this month on the 19th, I'm going to be seeing President Trump in person again. There's an event. It's not a Trump rally. This is a private ticketed event, and President Trump's going to be there. Don Jr., Kim Guilfoyle, and others. And I'm going. I got a ticket today, and it's on March 19th. And I'll tell you guys that's my daughter's birthday, and I am going. There was a Trump event on our daughter's birthday last year that I did not go to because it was the week. It was the weekend of her birthday. But this year, I got her permission. I'm going, and this is I don't know how many times I've been in the presence of President Trump and seen him with my own eyes in person. It's been many, many times, but this is the first time I've seen him with my own eyes in a year.
Yeah,
like in person. And I'm pretty excited about it. It's here in South Florida, and it's at an indoor venue. It's an arena where the Florida Panther hockey team plays, and I actually was at a Trump rally there once before, and it's also where I went for the CNN town hall with Laura Loomer on the after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas school shooting, and it's a great venue, and I got a very nice place to sit. So a lot of times this is a ticketed event, so everyone gets a seat because it's a special private event, but. I remember I went to a Trump rally in the same venue, and there were no seats on the floor. And a lot of people got there really early, like when it was still dark outside, like the day before. so they could get up close to the stage, and then they realized standing on your feet all day, saving your space, is a little rough, and they were trying to get seats afterwards. But everyone has a seat at this venue, and I'm really, really looking forward to it because, if you've never been to see President Trump in person and you have an opportunity to go, everyone should do it at least once, and it's such an exciting event. And when you go to Trump rallies, or you go to any event with President Trump, it's a great event of like-minded people. You don't know anybody; they're all strangers, but you're all brothers and sisters in MAGA, and it's a great time no matter what you do, and it's an all-day event, and it's a lot of fun, especially when they're inside air-conditioned in Florida.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
It'll probably be raining anyway. It always rains in March.
Well, the first Trump event I went to was a rally where there were no chairs for anyone. And this rally, there was a Trump rally 2 miles, literally, I'm not exaggerating, 2 miles from our front door.
Yeah.
And in fact, I got there and I forgot my ticket I came back. I drove back home and got my ticket and still made it back, because it was so close to the house. And there were no chairs. It was very hot. There was no cover over our head.
Yeah, it was outside.
And we were packed in on our feet. You couldn't even sit down on the ground. There were so many people, and we were like sardines. And obviously, this is before, the pandemic. And I was packed in, standing. You couldn't even go to the bathroom. You couldn't even get out to go to the bathroom. You would lose your spot in the grass to see Trump. And by the time he got there, I don't remember how many hours I stood out there, but it was a long time. But it was worth every minute of it. And as soon as he got there, the pain of my feet and not being able to leave to go to the bathroom and everything just disappeared. So I'm looking forward to this one, especially since there's so much going on in the world.
Yeah. It'll be a good one, I think.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting.
Well, you guys, if you want to go, it's the one in Fort Lauderdale. So if you're here in South Florida,
I think it's the Bank Atlantic Center.
No, they don't call it the Bank Atlantic Center anymore.
What's it called
It's called something else. I don't. You know how these arenas change names every year because they license out the name of every sports venue and arena. So they change names all the time. But it's the event in Fort Lauderdale. So if you have an opportunity to be there and you see me, you can say hi. But I'm really looking forward to it.
That'll be fun.
Oh yeah. Now speaking of President Trump, John Bolton was on Newsmax today. Okay, and John Bolton hates Trump. Remember, he had a Trump-hating book out, and one thing you got to understand with John Bolton: one, he's a warmonger; two, he's a never-Trumper; and three, he's very tight with the Bush Cheneys. Remember, he was a big GW guy. He worked for GW, and GW loved him. And I used to be a big fan of George Bush, but he's turned on us, and now we know what he's all about. So John Bolton was on Newsmax today and just said terrible things about President Trump. Listen to this.
The fact is that he barely knew where Ukraine was. He once asked John Kelly, his second chief of staff, if Finland were a part of Russia.
I don't believe. Do you believe that?
No.
I don't believe
that. Not at
all. President Trump.
This is a guy who's an international businessman.
Exactly.
He knows where every country
with resorts
is.
and events all over the world.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Believe me, he knows geography very well because he does business in so many foreign countries.
His wife's from Eastern Europe.
By the time John Bolton worked for him, exactly, his wife's from Eastern Europe. She might even speak Russian or Ukraine. I don't know. She speaks 5 languages.
Yeah.
But by the time John Bolton worked for him, he had been president already for a couple years. He had met with the president of the Ukraine and everything. That's a bunch of BS.
Yeah. Let me start it over. Let's see if he says anything else.
He's just a bitter,
nasty,
angry person.
Yeah. And that mustache drives me nuts. What it must be like to sit down and eat with John Bolton with that mustache that covers up his lips?
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that.
I think that's disgusting.
Yeah.
He's got like that 1800s kind of mustache thing going on.
The fact is that he barely knew where Ukraine was. He once asked John Kelly, his second chief of staff, if Finland were a part of Russia. It's just not accurate to say that Trump's behavior somehow deterred the Russians.
It is true. And, President Trump talked about it at CPAC over the weekend. he is the only president in the 21st century that Putin didn't make a move on. He made a move with
I mean, how else does he explain that?
Yeah, he made a move with GW. He took Crimea with Obama, which is also Obama-Biden. And here with Biden, he's gone into Ukraine. He didn't have any gains or make any moves during the 4 years of President Trump's first term. That is a fact.
Yeah.
And this idea that if Trump were incompetent or if he were in league with Putin, that's when Putin would have really made some moves. And it does make a statement. And it's embarrassing that John Bolton, because he works for all these other politicians, and and that happens. And let me tell you this about I'm a big fan of Newsmax. You guys know that. I'm always promoting Newsmax, and Newsmax is spectacular. I love Newsmax, but I'll tell you what I don't really tune into Newsmax for: to hear never Trumpers and liberals.
Right.
And I know there's a knee-jerk thing. Well, we need to have the other side on. Every other outlet is the other side. Fox News, they have too many liberals on there all day on every show. You get the never Trumpers all day. I really,
they do it because they want to give the impression that they're giving you, that they're balanced.
Yeah.
And that they're giving you both sides of the coin, and that they're real journalists, because they want you to think they're not completely one-sided. But I will say, the guy who was interviewing Rob, he's really good. I remember his last name. Handsome guy. He's on like at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
He was giving him a hard time. He was really pushing back. But he should have said what I said. He should have said, really? I don't believe you, because Trump's an international businessman. And he was president for 3 years.
Exactly.
By the time you worked for him, and his wife's Eastern European. So that's not even believable.
No, it's not. It's not believable.
I know he's been to Poland, and they love him there. It's right next door. He doesn't know the Ukraine is right next door to Poland.
Of course he knows.
They love Trump in Poland.
Asked if Finland was part of Russia. Give me a break.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
He is. I would like to. Yeah, that he's out of his mind.
Remember they did that movie on HBO about Sarah Palin with Ed Harris and Juliette
Lewis.
No,
not Juliette Lewis. Julianne Moore.
And they had a scene, this was crazy. They had a scene where they had to coach her, and she didn't even know, where states were in the United States.
Yeah, give me a break, yeah.
And they had to hire somebody to come in and show her where, Georgia was or something. It was so ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, listen, guys, I want to take a moment here to talk about the Thomas Edison of sleep, Mike Lindell, the inventor of the MyPillow. And, sometimes I'm talking about different specials at MyPillow.com that you could take advantage of with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. And I'll tell you guys, hey, listen, this special, it's here now. It may not be here later. And that is true. There was a special recently that we were talking about on one of the items that is no more today. So when I talk about these specials, you do want to take advantage of them while they last. And, this is a story I just read today. Do you know, we know about how the cancel culture has gone after Mike Lindell with his banking, and how retail stores in the United States and Canada have gone after Mike Lindell by not carrying MyPillow products. Do you know that there are pet stores, including online pet stores, that will no longer carry the MyPillow pet beds? And, we have 2 MyPillow pet beds. Our dog and our cat love them. Yeah. Yeah, and let me tell you, we've always had dogs and cats like you guys out there. I have had more pet beds than I could ever remember, and all of them are useless and terrible except the MyPillow pet bed. All the other pet beds, they usually have foam inside, and dogs and cats are dirty, okay? They're dirty. They go outside and
especially our dog.
Oh, my gosh. They roll around and stuff, and they pee on the beds and everything else. And the other pet beds, you can get the cover off and you can wash that. The foam cover underneath never gets washed, so everything that the dog has is seeped into it forever, and you can never get the covers back on properly. The MyPillow pet bed, which still, inside of it has that same patented fill that's in the pillows, is 100% washable and dryable. We wash and dry ours all the time, and they're like the day they arrived every time. But pet shops and pet stores have stopped carrying the MyPillow pet beds. This is insane. And there's a special right now with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, 50% off the MyPillow pet bed, as low as $19.99. They come in many different colors, and your dog, your cat will love them. 50% off the MyPillow pet bed with the promo code Kane at checkout. Now, there's a lot of other great deals there, too, that you will want to take advantage of. The 100% Giza Cotton Dream Sheets. Kathy and I have these. We have both the regular and the flannel sheets, 60% off. with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, as low as $39.99. The MyPillow My Slippers. I have these MyPillow My Slippers. They're wonderful. They're comfortable. 50% off with the promo code Kane, Kane, at checkout. The 6-piece MyPillow towel set, normally $109.99, just $39.99 with the promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. The MyPillow 2-inch mattress topper, 50% off with the promo code Kane at checkout. That's 50% off the MyPillow 2-inch mattress topper with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. Now, there are many other specials there at MyPillow.com. That's just a handful, but take advantage of them. Support Mike Lindell and support our program. Go to MyPillow.com and buy something with the promo code Kane, Kane, at checkout. We'll be right back.
Looking for a great podcast to listen to on your drive home from work? The Blah Blah Bunker is a podcast that features interviews with regular people who have extraordinary stories to tell. Host Almar Himerson is one of them. In 25 years, he's gone from Icelandic lawyer and airline CEO to tattooed, bearded meat enthusiast with a startup in Central Europe. On the way, he's made plenty of stops and cultivated a habit of running into interesting people and asking them interesting questions. Nothing is off limits in the Blah Blah Bunker, and Almar may ask questions that most people wouldn't dare to ask. He interviews all kinds of people of diverse nationalities from all over the planet who are gambling experts, professional athletes, psychics, therapists, NASDAQ CEOs, singers, entertainers, and more. It's an eclectic show that features interesting people you will want to listen to. Check it out right now. The Blah Blah Bunker, available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Add the Blah Blah Bunker to your playlist right now. The search for the most dangerous book in the world is about to begin. From authors Wayne E. Haley and Sean P. Haley comes An Apology to Lucifer, now available for sale at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Apple Books, and on the book's official website, anapologytolucifer.com. In An Apology to Lucifer, Father Thomas Morelli thought he knew the story behind Lucifer's fall from heaven. However, upon making the acquaintance of renowned book authenticator Lorenzo Pellegrini and being invited to stay in the opulent Venice villa belonging to Pellegrini's master, Thomas discovers he has only heard part of the story. In Boston, psychoanalyst, best-selling author, and outspoken atheist David Wright has been tasked to handle the funeral arrangements of his dear friend, Albert Kennedy. What could have driven this controversial exorcist to take his own life? The answer, it seems, is contained in a book that isn't supposed to exist. Joining forces, Lorenza, David, and Thomas must race against time to prevent an ancient battle from reigniting. If you enjoyed The Da Vinci Code, you will love this book, An Apology to Lucifer. The most anticipated supernatural thriller of 2022 is now available at BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon, Apple Books, and on the book's official website, anapologytolucifer.com. Order your copy right now. Come quiet your mind, warm your heart, and lift your spirit with the book from author Gregory Drambor, The Shaman and His Daughter, available on Amazon. We all need a book that we can reach for to make us smile and cry and laugh in joy. Words that can give us hope that we can survive the hard days that will come in anyone's life. The Shaman and His Daughter will guide you to deeper levels of acceptance and letting go, no matter what's happening in your life. This must-read book takes readers inside the world of a 35-year-old veteran, master shamanic healer, spiritual teacher, and his powerful apprentice daughter, 3 years after a devastating loss. Their journey will inspire and touch you in a deep part of your soul. In The Shaman and His Daughter, you will read 18 tender tales where you will learn how to trust that there is always a way out of a tragedy, out of the deepest sadness, and a way out of not understanding why life can sometimes feel so unfair. The Shaman and His Daughter, from author Gregory Drambor, is available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. Order your copy right now.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and make sure that you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to us on. Now, I just saw this story today. DirecTV has dropped the Russian state media channel due to the invasion of Ukraine. Okay. before the invasion of Ukraine, DirecTV was fine with the Russian state media channel. But now all of a sudden they're dropping them. And
because he's invading a country.
Well, yeah, I understand.
You know what's going on? What's different
here?
Let
me finish what I was saying about that, because I don't want to lose my train of thought. DirecTV just dropped One America News, right? One America News, they were perfectly fine having Russian state television on DirecTV. They had canceled One America News, and One America News, 80% of their viewers come from DirecTV.
Right.
And One American News didn't do anything. They didn't
invade any countries.
They didn't invade countries. They just don't like their politics. And the leftists that run DirecTV were perfectly comfortable with Vladimir Putin having Russian state television available on DirecTV until this incident happened in Ukraine. And they're not dropping him because he invaded Ukraine. If they would have done that a week ago. They're dropping him because public opinion and others in the media are coming out against it now. But why was it okay to have Putin TV on DirecTV before, but One American News was not? It's just like Twitter. Putin's all over Twitter tweeting. They're calling him a war criminal, but he can be on Twitter, but President Trump can't.
Well, because liberals see Trump and One American News as a bigger threat.
Just Putin,
like exactly. Change. I mean, they think climate change is a bigger.
Well, what does that tell you? If
that they're messed up, that's what it tells me.
If DirecTV, this is an interesting thing. DirecTV views One America News as a greater threat than Russia.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I mean, they just do.
Yeah, exactly.
They just do, and that tells you everything you need to know about the left, because the left, they hate us, they hate conservatives, and it'll always be that way.
Well, what's interesting is this is the first time you're seeing a war in a period of wokeness.
Yeah, it's
true. Putin is not woke at all. He's alpha male and proud of it. And you're seeing people are canceling him. He's being canceled. I've never seen anything like this with when there's a war going on in another country. You don't see such a mass cancellation of the countries involved. I mean, how many conflicts have they had in the Middle East? Have you seen cancellations of Middle Eastern things like you're seeing now? Now you're seeing Putin with Russia. People are not serving Russian vodka. They're canceling, like you said, the network. You're seeing a war in the time of wokeness. And the world is reacting. And so he's got to battle that too. Not that I'm defending Putin, because I don't defend him at all. I think he's wrong in what he's doing. But, I don't think we should get involved, like I've said, but we should do what we can. But I don't want to go to war with Russia, especially with Biden in charge. There's no freaking way that would be a good idea. And sometimes I think America gets too involved in too many of these international conflicts. And what happens is when that occurs, the conflict goes on and on and on for decades. And I think sometimes we need to stay out of these things, or not always decades. I mean, Vietnam didn't go on for decades, but
it went on for 10 years.
10 years, how many guys were killed? And
War on Terror, 2 decades.
And and those things, those events cause major cultural shifts in our country, not always for the good. But I think it's best to stay out of it for now, unless he starts going around invading other people. Then it's a problem, I would think. But it's interesting to see him dealing with, not that he cares, but, banks are being canceled, all this stuff very quickly. Russia's being canceled by the world. And it's really interesting to me to see the wokeness of the world completely, fully rejecting him overall. Yeah. Overall, I wanted to say I did a poll on your YouTube channel, because one of your callers this morning on the radio show said that, Brian, you should have a poll. See, we listened to callers about the Ukraine. The ad just popped up. So I put up a poll this morning after the show. We've had over 500 votes. If you want to go to Brian's YouTube channel, Brian Craig, Craig, and you can vote yourself. It's at the top of the community section. Do you support the Ukrainian government or Putin, or are you neutral? So there's 3 choices. Putin was right to invade. Ukraine is right on this one, or neutral. Now, we've had over 500 votes. Up until like a half an hour ago, neutrality was winning. Now Ukraine is on the right, is right on this one, is the majority opinion, and Putin is right to invade is only at 25%.
Yeah.
So right now, the majority of people, 38% of our poll, feel that Ukraine is right. 37% feel are neutral. Kind of that's Brian's position.
Yeah.
And 25%, which is a high number, I'm surprised, agree with Putin. Look, I don't agree with anybody going into a peaceful country. I know there's corruption. There's corruption in every country. There's corruption in our country, too. That doesn't mean we should be attacked for it. I mean, we didn't do anything to deserve that. I don't think he should be going in and trying to take over a country and hurt all these people. And just because he, wants it back with Russia and all this stuff. I mean, I don't think that's enough of a reason to kill people. But anyway, that's the poll on YouTube if you want to check it out and participate in the poll.
Now, there's a story today with Ron DeSantis and Biden that I found very, very disturbing. Let me read the story, then we'll talk about it, and I'll tell you what I found disturbing about it.
Okay.
This is in the postmillennial.com, which is a great conservative news site out of Canada. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has rejected a request from the Biden administration to deploy the Florida National Guard to Washington, D.C. in advance of Biden's State of the Union address. Now, this is what is disturbing to me. Why do they need the National Guard to come to Washington during the State of the Union address? And by the way,
why the Florida National Guard?
Yeah, I don't know why particularly the Florida National Guard. And also the Capitol is still surrounded by fencing. And I read
Is he calling in the National Guard from all 50 states, or just?
I don't know.
We don't know. Run by Republicans so they can say no and he can.
I don't know. I don't know. All I know is Ron DeSantis said no to his request for the Florida National Guard.
For him.
And it's disturbing to me. And the reason they're doing this, nothing's good. There's no problems. But the Democrats, Pelosi, Biden, Kamala, the Democrats and the mainstream media, they want to keep up the illusion that MAGA is a threat.
Yes.
And they need protection of the army, and they need fencing around the Capitol.
That's
and
why
everything to keep the
DeSantis
threat.
said no, because he's not going to participate in their reindeer games.
No, that's exactly right. And I'm so happy that Ron DeSantis stood up to this. Let me finish what he said.
He is absolutely the best governor.
He's
the guy's
the best.
amazing. The guy is, and his wife's fighting cancer right now. The guy is absolutely amazing. He's got a wife fighting cancer. Yeah. He's got 3 small children, and the guy's still a badass.
Yeah, so Ron DeSantis tweeted this. Last week, the Biden administration requested the assistance of the state National Guards, plural, to deploy to Washington, D.C. I have rejected this request. There will be no Florida guards sent to D.C. for Biden's State of the Union.
Good.
Fencing was already erected around the Capitol in advance of the speech, and the request for the National Guard was approved by the Pentagon. The request was in light of the truckers' freedom convoy that's making its way to D.C., which is miles and miles long right now, to protest Biden. Okay, the Pentagon spokesperson, that Admiral Kirby.
Are they going to be there tonight for the State of the Union?
Yeah, they said 700 National Guard will provide support in D.C. Okay, now let me tell you why this is very disturbing. Okay, a couple of reasons. The one I already told you, that Biden and the Democrats want to keep up the illusion that there's a threat from MAGA all the time and they need the army to protect them.
Apparently.
But none of these people, this is a terrible thing going on here, okay? One of the things about the United States that's like a symbol of American greatness is that there's 2 things that Biden has brought us that has taken away from us that were like symbols of freedom and national pride, okay? One of them was the Canadian border. We was talking about this a couple weeks ago when the freedom truckers in Canada were being harassed and all that was going on. The United States and Canada have the largest unfortified border in the world. Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty big thing to be proud of. 2 big countries like this, and now what did they do? They fortified the border because of the mandates. And another symbol of American pride that Biden and Pelosi have done away with is that we have an open capital city. Washington D.C. is not a military place, and I've been to Washington D.C. many times, and it's a free city with no military. And we were talking last week on the show. Kathy and I went to this exhibit at our local museum about Machu Picchu, and I went to
very good.
Yeah, and I went to Peru years ago. I will never go back. Do not go to Peru. It is not safe. I was scared out of my mind. But I went and saw those Nazca lines in the desert. You know, you might have heard of them. But down the street from where I was staying was the presidential palace. And I took a walk over there, okay, because it was down the street. I say, hey, what the heck? When am I ever going to see the presidential palace of Peru again? And it looked like they had a balcony out there with the flag. I thought Eva Perón was going to walk out with Juan Perón. And there were tanks all over the place. Tanks.
Wow.
And I thought that was pretty scary. He didn't have that in Washington. And the only time we've seen military—
No, but they want to give the visual—
That's right.
That's necessary, that they're in
Correct.
danger. Well, liberals love to be victims.
That's right. But, you know, other than after 9/11, we did not, you know, because after 9/11, when we didn't have Homeland Security, we didn't have TSA, then we saw soldiers at airports and in civilian areas. But outside of the aftermath of 9/11, you've never seen a military presence in Washington, D.C. In fact, even during the Civil War, it was an open city. Even during the Second World War, it was a free and open city. And there was not fencing up all over the place in D.C. like they put up now, because they're trying to create this false narrative that MAGA is a danger,
right?
And they need soldiers to protect them. You know, and the Democrats, they wouldn't let President Trump bring in support when Antifa was burning D.C. down. Remember all of that?
I like your idea of the truckers going to Philadelphia instead, because that's the original—
Catch them off guard.
That's the beginning of the country's forming, you know, where they signed the Declaration of Independence and where all that happened. That's kind of the beginning of the country forming, was there. And you have the Liberty Bell. I think if you're MAGA, you should just stay away from D.C. altogether. Don't go there on vacation. Don't visit. Just stay the hell away from there as long as they're there. As long as Biden is there, just stay away. Why go there? Why give them any kind of anything they can use against you? Screw those guys.
If you go to Washington, D.C. and you're MAGA, you're going to go on a list.
Maybe.
You'll be like on a watch list.
I mean,
I would not go. I would not go.
Yeah, I would just avoid it now.
And, you know, the American Freedom Truckers, by the way, the convoy currently is 15 miles long.
Wow.
And you haven't even seen it on television, have you? They don't want to report it. They don't want to show it, but it's 15 miles long, and it's growing as it gets closer to Washington, D.C. It's 15 miles long as of now.
That's incredible.
From reporters that are with the convoy reporting from it. And these are peaceful protesters.
The news is reporting that it's fizzling out.
They
the news
are.
Is lying. They're reporting that truckers are not staying with the convoy.
That's not true.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, that's not the case.
Because I was worried about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you want to talk about this thing with Pat Robertson.
Well, let's take our break, and let's get into that after the break, all right? My name's Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll take a quick break and be right back. Don't go anywhere.
What you wear can say a lot about who you are. You can express your personality and style with a collection of t-shirts and hoodies at Moonlight T Designs on Etsy.com. Whatever kind of t-shirts and hoodies you like, they have them. Moonlight T Designs on Etsy have something for everyone. You can head out of the door with a shirt or hoodie that you're proud of and experience the joy of comfort wherever you go. Moonlight T Designs on Etsy was inspired by the love of animals. The items are very positive and funny. Everything is made with premium, soft, and soothing fabric that feels great. The shirts and hoodies are breathable, comfortable, and always in style. They have different color options to choose from. Everything in the shop makes a great gift for a friend or loved one. Worldwide delivery is available. Go to the shop right now online at Etsy.com/shop/Moonlight T Designs. That's the letter T. Etsy.com/shop/Moonlight T Designs. View the inventory and take your casual look to a new level with t-shirts and hoodies from Moonlight T Designs on Etsy. Etsy.com/shop/Moonlight T Designs. From author J.T. Palace comes the book Risky Business, a thriller about corporate corruption and greed. Available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. In Risky Business, meet Jason Kirby. He's just landed a dream job in the C-suite of an auto parts manufacturing company. But his by-the-book approach soon leads him to suspect that some of his esteemed colleagues are nothing more than white-collar criminals. The fate of the company and the livelihood of its employees are in his hands, and the mild mild-mannered accountant finds himself forced into a role he never thought he'd play. Hero, a little forensic accounting, turns life-threatening as he dives into the cesspit of corporate corruption and international espionage. The conspiracy goes deeper than he ever imagined. With each new piece of the puzzle, Kirby faces a different enemy, from his co-workers to Russian oligarchs to the highest levels of the government food chain. Can he survive long enough to uncover the whole truth, or will he end up a casualty of the riskiest kind of business? Find out when you read Risky Business, a thriller about corporate corruption and greed from author J.T. Pallas. Available in Kindle and paperback on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Order your copy right now. Embrace your faith and tap into a boundless source of love, strength, and abundance through Christ. In the book from author Danny Davis, In Him You Are. Trusting God with who you are, what you have, and how He sees you. Available on Amazon. This must-read and life-changing book artfully blends a heartfelt message of faith with poignant reflections and timeless biblical wisdom. This touching book seeks to open your mind and heart to Christ, encouraging you to embrace your faith and walk closer to God with the lessons of Scripture. In Him You Are challenges you to place your trust in Christ and experience the boundless love that propels us into a rich, fulfilling, and abundant life. The book contains thought-provoking reflections and prompts for readers to practice self-discovery, rich spiritual wisdom, and timeless biblical lessons. Also included are practical insights for living a victorious Christian life, challenges that will inspire you to confront the lies that keep you from living fully, and much, much more. This book is perfect for both devout Christians and newcomers to the faith. Are you ready to create the life that God intended for you? Take that first step right now and order your copy of In Him You Are. Trusting God with who you are, what you have, and how He sees you. From author Danny Davis. Available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast. Broadcasting from sunny South Florida, Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. Thank you so much for your support as we are now in our 10th year of the Brian Craig Show podcast. It is absolutely
crazy.
Amazing. I know. Isn't it amazing?
Golly.
Yeah, I know. 10 years.
We're getting old.
Well, and you know, we've been here 10 years because of you guys, and our Patreon supporters are very much appreciated.
That's for sure.
And if you would like to support the show by becoming a Patreon supporter, there is a link in the description of this and every episode, and the direct website address is patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow. Patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow.
What's even more shocking is when we started this show, our daughter was 13 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And now she'll be 23 in a couple weeks.
That's right. And
that's nuts.
Our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you on each and every episode. So the names you are about to hear are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Jacqueline, Rick, Rich, and Nick. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you so much to all of our Patreon supporters and our top Patreon supporters. Thank you as well. All right, so I just want to play this clip. This is Pat Robertson, and you know, I always have liked Pat Robertson. It doesn't mean I always agree with Pat Robertson, but I think I've agreed with him more than I've disagreed with him, and I have not heard from him in a while, and I believe he's retired. They say he came out of retirement on the 700 Club to comment on Russia and Ukraine. I'm going to play the audio here in a minute.
Him and like Charles Stanley are the last. Well, Jim Baker's still alive. So there was a whole group of evangelicals coming up in the 60s and 70s. I read this book on PTL about it, and it was Jim Baker, Pat Robertson, Jerry Falwell, and Charles Stanley, who's my favorite, and all these guys coming up, and God, like they're all in their 90s now.
Oh yeah, Kathy and I love Charles Stanley.
I love him. I watch him every week.
Yeah, we were in his church once with Charles Stanley, and we got there early and got in the front
to meet
row.
Him. It was really exciting.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool, and they were filming it for TV.
Yeah,
it was really exciting.
That was exciting.
We were actually on it. I saw
love
us.
him. He's my favorite.
I saw us on TV when we got back home because they taped
He is the real deal, and every time I watch him, I highly recommend. You will definitely learn a lot about the Bible.
Yeah, and one thing though that's missing today is we don't have these powerful, high-profile preachers anymore.
Joel Osteen.
No, I don't like Joel Osteen.
He's one of them. But
Joel Osteen is he doesn't count. I'm talking. Pat Robertson ran for president.
You mean politically influential?
Yeah, Pat Robertson ran for president. Yeah. He started the Christian Coalition, and the Christian Coalition. It's let me tell you something, okay? The Christian Coalition. So much of what Pat Robertson and the Christian Coalition talked about is happening, and even more so because during the heyday of the Christian Coalition era, there were two big issues. One was, of course, being pro-life, and the other one was working against gay rights. And
that was a big thing.
Yeah, and
they were big into the conversion therapy, and
not just that, they were big into stopping gay marriage and other things.
Yeah,
but
they lost that battle.
No, well, they were right though about a lot of things, which I'll tell you. Now the pro-choice movement, I don't think people see it this way, but I think they had a lot of victories with that. The pro-choice, not that abortions have ended, but I don't think there is you don't see the champions of it like you used to. So I think they had some victory with that, but what they were right about is they were like predictors of the future. When the Christian Coalition and others were combating gay rights and all these different agendas, they said in the future what's going to be next. And look what's going on now with 83 genders, and we played some audio the other day on the show with this one girl who's a very strange gender that changes from minute to minute and from hour to hour, from day to day. You know what I mean? And a lot of the things they talked about we're now seeing in the woke culture.
I don't think they ever predicted that. How could you predict something like that?
They didn't predict how far it would go, but they
on another level.
But what Pat Robertson and the Christian Coalition talked about is in the future, the more morality is going to be gone in our society, and there are so many strange things going on. It's gotten far worse than they predicted. But there are no conservative Christian voices of credibility anymore. We had Liberty University, and what happened? Right? Disgrace, gone, fallen. We have no one. So Pat Robertson is a force I have not always agreed with. And by the way, some people get upset with this. I'm not opposed to gay rights, okay, or any of that, because a lot of people will probably get mad at me and say, "Oh, you're not MAGA." President Trump is in favor of gay rights, by the way. Right? Remember that?
Yeah.
And during the first campaign, he was asked in an interview if Caitlyn Jenner could use the ladies' room at Trump Tower, and he said yes. Right? Remember that?
Yeah.
And I thought, the Christian Coalition, we're going to be in trouble. And we weren't, and they still supported Trump. I thought when because President Trump came out in favor of gay rights, and I thought, oh boy, we're in trouble now because the Christian Coalition. But we're missing Christian voices in politics now. We really are. So anyway, Pat Robertson, he came out and talked about Ukraine and Russia and Putin, and I've not seen him in a while. And man, has he aged! I mean, everyone's aging, but
he's got to be like 100 by now.
He,
I know Charles Stanley's like 90, and they're probably close in age.
Yeah, I mean, he is like really tiny. His clothes were hanging off of his body.
Probably older than most of them.
I don't know how old he is, but I don't know. But anyway, let's play this. So this is Pat Robertson talking about Putin, Russia, and Ukraine on the 700 Club.
I think you can say, well, Putin's out of his mind. Yes, maybe so. But at the same time, he's being compelled by God. He went into the Ukraine, but that wasn't his goal. His goal was to move against Israel ultimately And God is getting ready to do something amazing, and that will be fulfilled. And what Putin is doing by moving as he is to set up Ukraine as a staging ground for one of the armies, and then across is Erdogan at Turkey, and you've got between them that little Dardanelles area, and it's going to happen. So I just say that is what's coming up. Is Putin crazy? Is he mad? Well, perhaps. But God says, I'm going to put hooks in your jaws, and I'm going to draw you into this battle, whether you like it or not. And he's being compelled, after the move into the Ukraine, he's being compelled to move again to get a land bridge and then across the Dardanelles with Turkey, and watch what's going to happen next. You read your Bible because it's coming to pass.
Okay, now this is making the rounds all over the news because the media hate Pat Robertson. They
and they hate God too,
and Christians in particular. And you know, Pat Robertson, and again, he is nowhere near a perfect person, and he said some crazy things about hurricanes and things like this. And I do not agree with his agenda all the time, and I don't agree with all of his statements. But what I don't like is what I've been seeing today in the media, and it's an attack. You know, the media, they get all excited. They love to attack Christians for being Christian, and it's a well,
that's been going on. Even Jesus was mocked and attacked, and he was strung up on a cross.
Yeah, but
that's been going on since Jesus was born. I mean, they tried to kill him when he was 2 years old. Or when he was born, he had to.
That's true.
Had to flee to Egypt.
That's true, but
so this has been going on since Jesus came into the world.
But the United States is a Christian country. Okay, I know it's Judeo-Christian. Christianity is Judaism, and I get all that. But this is a Christian nation, and a very tolerant nation, and we have every religion and belief in this country at all different levels of government and society. And Christians, are very tolerant people. And I know liberals will say, no, well, hey, listen, Pat Robertson was against this and he was against that. You can have an opinion on something. I never heard Pat Robertson go after other religions. Like, you know what I'm talking about? There's political issues. And I've never seen religious bigotry in this country like you have from the media and liberals towards Christians like Pat Robertson.
Well, what's going on is he's saying that Putin is fulfilling a Christian, a biblical prophecy from Ezekiel 38 and 39 about the this battle that's going to happen. And it talks about it in those two chapters. And it's a very controversial thing. There's really no I know people might disagree with me on this, but there's no definitive knowledge on exactly what it means, because there's a lot of people in the Christian world, and I believe I've been reading up on this for weeks now, that disagree on this. Top people. Some people feel that event has already, now this Ezekiel was written in BC, like 1500 BC. Ezekiel was a prophet, and they're saying that event already happened. Some Christians believe that during the time of Esther, which was 450 BC. Some people say it hasn't happened yet. Some people say most Christians believe that this battle will take place after the rapture. Well, if it's going to take place after the rapture, then this is not the battle, because the rapture has not occurred. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, my whole life and since medieval times, have been, I've read books on these things, have been saying it's the end times, it's the end times. I've been hearing that my whole life. People have been talking about it since probably the early medieval period. Life is hard. There's always been wars and battles. And every time there's a war or a battle, people start talking about stuff like this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not happening or not. I don't know. What I'm telling you is nobody knows. And Jesus said himself that nobody knows. Nobody knows. And he said, I'm pretty sure he said, if anybody says they know, then they're against me. Nobody knows when the end times are. And a lot of people have said it, so don't get offended by me saying this, because I don't know when it is or when it isn't. These two chapters don't mention Russia. Obviously, Russia wasn't a country when this was written. It mentions a country in the north and it going into Israel and attacking Israel because of Israel's sin. Well, you don't know if he's going to go into Israel. I haven't heard that. I mean, we don't know. If he goes into Israel, then I'll start thinking, okay, something's happening here. But I haven't heard him ever have any issues with Israel. Maybe I'm wrong. Or mention that he's going to go in. If you have an article or a book or something saying that's his end goal, let me know. So that's what that whole thing is about, is a country and that is a name, Grog or Gog or something in the Bible that's not the battle of something with a G. It escapes me now. That they're going to go in, march into Israel and destroy it and this and that. And then Israel's going to rise up and then that's going to be, when Jesus comes and all this stuff. But some people say, like I said, some Christians believe that the rapture will occur first, that the believers will be taken up before this battle occurs. A lot of Christians believe that, and some don't. So there's no consensus on this. There's nothing. It's open for interpretation, like a lot of things, like Revelation. It's very figurative. I'm not saying it's not true, but there's a lot of gray area here. And it's open to a lot of interpretation. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people say it, but they don't educate themselves like I have. And other people, they don't read it. They don't study it. But they'll say it because other Christians are saying it or because they've heard it in church. Like we heard a pastor today you were watching talking about it, that this was the end times. So our whole congregation is going to just say that because she said it. No, read those chapters yourself and study it and read up on it. I'm not saying I don't believe in the end times. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, you don't know if this is it, but because even Jesus said, you will not know. You will not know. So people that say it is, they're going against what Jesus said. So that's just, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that. That's fine. We could disagree. I'm not attacking God or the Bible. I'm just telling you, nobody knows when the end times are. And if you say you do, then you are going against what Jesus said in the Bible out of his own mouth.
Well, we're going to get a lot of feedback on that, Kathy.
I'm sure we will. Well, read the Bible, and you'll see where he says it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going by what the man himself said to his apostles.
Yeah. Well, listen, we are all out of time for today, but we will be back next time. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. I imagine we are going to get a lot of comments on Kathy's statements there.
That's okay.
Yeah, I know.
What, are you getting nervous?
Well,
that's right. Is it bad if
okay? No.
It's okay. You don't have to agree with me. I'm not a theologian. I'm not a pastor.
No, I'm not
a priest.
No. I'm just saying that
I'm just saying I've been hearing it's the end times since I was a kid. They've been saying it was the end times since 1100 A.D. It's the end times. A lot of books from then, Henry VIII's time, and all this stuff. They tell you people always thought it was the end times. I'm not saying he's not coming. But just because there's a war going on doesn't mean it's happening now. But every time there's a battle, I've heard this when there were invasions with Syria and in the Middle East 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You don't know. I mean, it's a horrible thing, but that just because there's a war, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It's just the world is a corrupt place.
And there was a lot of talk of this too in the 80s when Iran was doing a lot of things.
I remember hearing it when I was a kid in church all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to happen. But
and not only
doesn't mean this is
not only are we going to get a lot of negative feedback from this, the people that leave negative feedback, they're going to leave it like 1,000 word postings.
Well, let's keep in mind what Jesus said. Look at the plank in your own eye before you judge the pebble in my eye. Okay?
I just
don't be judgmental.
I don't like it when, and it's okay for me not to like something. It doesn't mean I'm right. I don't like it when Christians are so divided over things because as Christians, there's a lot of disagreement on a lot of things with Christians. Kathy and I are Catholic.
Well, this is a controversial thing. Not everybody agrees on this.
I understand. Kathy and I are Catholic, and there's many denominations of Christianity, and there's a lot of differences in beliefs on a great many things, but on the big picture, we agree. Jesus is our Lord and Savior, and everything that goes along with that. And
I think he will come someday. The Bible says he will. Yeah. But just because there's a war, now if he goes into Israel, then that's a big indication because that is in the Bible. But Israel's been attacked before since that was written. Israel's been attacked.
But as Christians, we shouldn't be so. It's like it's like with Trump and MAGA. MAGA should not be divided on anything. because it doesn't mean that we agree on everything all the time, but we agree.
We don't all share.
We agree on the big picture, and the big picture is, like earlier I was talking,
Trump.
like I was talking before that, I'm not against gay rights. A lot of MAGA people are, but that doesn't mean that we're both not MAGA. We're not going to agree 100%. And when
if you say something on the radio, and I see people in the chat, and they don't agree with you, instantly, Brian's not MAGA.
Yeah. But we all are. I mean, Ronald Reagan said, if you agree with me 80% of the time, you're in the tent of the Republican Party. And when that's the big picture with MAGA. And when it comes to Christianity, we believe, we accept Jesus as our Lord and our Savior. And, I know there's a little more than that goes along with it. But we're of a like mind on that. And I don't think Christians should be getting in the business of saying, well, you're not Christian because we have a disagreement on an interpretation on this or that.
I have never said that to anybody.
I don't tell anyone they're not a Christian.
No, I have never said that to anybody. But a lot of people said that to you when you talked about it last week. Immediately in the chat, well, you're not a Christian.
Like I'll give you an example.
You're being too judgmental. That's not right.
I'll give you an example. Joel Osteen. I do not like Joel Osteen. I think what a lot of people think about Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean he's not a Christian. He may very well be a true believer, and it's not for me to tell him he's not a Christian. Right. You understand what I mean? Does that make sense to people listening? All right, listen, we are out of time, but we will talk to you next time. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for listening.
A mystical unseen city, an urgent royal request, and a dangerous mission that will push David into a brave new world beyond his imagination. The book, The Dragonflyers, Book 2, City of Dragons, from author Cynthia Starr, is a #1 new release on Amazon, featuring action-packed pages, fast-moving plots, and a secret world of high-flying fun. Still wiping off dragon drool from their last adventure, David wonders what's next, and whether he's really cut out to be a true dragonflyer. When the evil Night Riders show up, determined to hunt the Flyers and their dragons down, he realizes the real adventure has just begun. Does he have what it takes to be a hero? Find out when you read The Dragonflyers, Book 2, City of Dragons, from author Cynthia Starr. This is an imaginative and exciting book with a relatable hero. Kids will love the vivid imagery, the brilliant word building, and the non-stop action. Parents will love the lessons of courage, teamwork, and true friendship. This book is perfect for young readers. Order your copy right now on Amazon, available in Kindle and paperback. The Dragonflyers, Book 2, City of Dragons, from author Cynthia Starr.